For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
All right. Welcome.
Yeah!
Welcome to 30-odd minutes. It's great to be with you folks. I'm very excited about tonight's show. This is a subject that's been near and dear to my heart for a long time for a number of reasons, and we will get to that. Want to say hello to Andrew Lake, who's on the couch in the Oddball Pit tonight. Andrew, how have you been?
Doing pretty good. A little worn out from the storm, but surviving it.
We did. We had a hurricane. You're a little lonely up there. I apologize. Matt's still fighting the storm. Sarah also occupied. We will get back to our normal crew, I promise, very soon. But good to have you with us. He's in the chat room if you want to jump in, 30oddminutes.com. You can ask questions of our guest. Andrew will pass them up. Want you involved in the discussion. We appreciate you folks. I've had an exciting couple of weeks. I was actually at the Michigan Paranormal Convention. Amazing time. And while I was there, I got to stay in a haunted hotel. Check this out. This is the Ojibwe Hotel in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. There it is, the oldest hotel in town. And I got to stay in haunted room 609. There it is, my room. I've already made a mess of the bed. Apologies. But the story goes that the top floor was once the living residence of the family that owned it. And 609 is supposed to be haunted by a woman who's still looking after her guests. Now, here's the thing. Nothing happened in particular that night to me. But you realize from talking to some of the staff, people come down all the time, talk about, wow, that night I heard strange things. I felt someone sit on the bed. And then, of course, there's people that look at that person and say, no, that didn't happen. You're mistaken. And that's one of the most frustrating parts of the paranormal experience. I mean, imagine you have this experience that's personal, that's yours, and someone else who wasn't even there, who has no idea, says, no, you're wrong. Your senses are wrong. It didn't happen. And that's really kind of the heart of the issue here. We can't judge another person's experiences. When you talk about haunted homes, haunted buildings throughout the world, one name generally comes to the top of the list, and that is the Amityville house in Long Island. I've known about the house a long time, of course, gripped by the story when I was a child. I went to college in Long Island, so I had friends from Amityville. I'd seen the house when I was in college. And actually, a few years ago, I got to interview George Lutz, who, of course, he was the father in the home. Interviewed him for one of my books extensively about the experiences there. And it's really such a compelling story, and that's why I'm so excited about tonight. But first, let's set the stage for you for where we are this house. On November 13th, 1974, Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. walked into his house at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York, and shot his two parents, his two brothers, and his two sisters dead. He was convicted of the crime and still sits in jail today. So the house sat empty for over a year, and the price plummeted. In December of 1975, the Lutz family, George and Kathy's children, Daniel, Melissa, and Christopher, who are all from a previous marriage, moved in. For the next 28 days, the family experienced haunting events that would eventually make this home one of the most famous haunted houses in the world today. The Amityville Horror, as it was known, has been the subject of a lot of controversy over the years. There have been books written about it, there have been movies made, and the debate continues to rage on. In reality, there are only 5 people who know exactly what happened, and 2 of those people, George and Kathy, sadly have already passed on. So that leaves 3 witnesses, 3 people alive today who know what really happened in that house. And more than that, they know what can happen when a tragic moment of your life is turned over to Hollywood. Tonight, we have one of those 3 witnesses with us for 30-odd minutes. Live from Arizona, please welcome Christopher Quaratino, formerly known as Christopher Lutz. Christopher, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Jeff.
Yeah, so let's just start back. You're age 7 years old, moving into this house. Did you know about the murders before you moved in?
There had to be something that our parents had told us, because I remember the day that we were in the basement with the real estate agent and pointing to something in the room that, and saying is that where they hid the bodies? And exactly what I was told, I don't remember initially, but yeah, we had to be told something that I would have thought that to ask them.
Okay, so but you're young. You're a young man, 7 years old. That's a kid by everyone's definition. And then you're in this house for 28 days. I know a lot of us have read the book, seen the movies, and I know George said years ago that everything was kind of an exaggeration of reality. But just bottom line, was this place haunted? Did something weird happen?
Definitely, plenty of weird happened in there. To say that it was only the haunting from the DeFeos, I think, would be less than fully descriptive. With what I had seen, I saw no children running around that were, dead children, like what you see in that last 2005 movie. I thought that could be a disgusting display of Hollywood.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely had seen stuff there that, even to this day, it's still within my mind.
Right. So Jay Anson's book comes out, The Amityville Horror. First of all, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead too much. 28 days you're in the house. Your family moves to San Diego after that. And then, before Jay Anson's book comes out and all of that, does life get a little better once you're out of that house?
Actually, we left from the house going to my grandma's house. We called her Nan. That would have been my mom's mom. And there was stuff that my parents had experienced there. There was still things going on with us kids, and then by the time we got to California, there was more going on. Something that a lot of people aren't familiar with is the second book, and in that describes the exorcism that my parents needed to go through. So they had some serious issues going too, and then with the other stuff that was following us, it was quite an ordeal.
And so it did follow you, and we will talk about how it's affected your life right up to the present day. But first, let's talk about what happens when a family gets exploited, because certainly everyone knows Amityville, but there's lots of paranormal shows on television today that deal with families that are now putting their issues on television that get exploited, certainly not to the degree that your family did, 30 plus years and all of that stuff. But at what point do you realize, whoa, this is big? People are starting to know who I am because of what my family went through. I mean, how old are you when that starts to happen?
Well, I was 7 when we lived in the house, and then it was probably I would have been 8 when the book. I turned 8 right after we moved out of there. My birthday's in February, and we moved out in January. I remember while we were at my grandma's house that the tapes had been done for Jay Anson, and then so how long it was right after that, at that young of an age, you don't really have a recollection of so much time, but with the way that that book would have come out there shortly after, and by then we were in California. And, here I was living in California as a little kid, enrolled in public school with a New York accent.
Right.
Pretty soon the movie came out, and, it was clear that I had a brother and a sister, and is your mom and dad named George and Kathy. And, yeah, and so, that it was pretty easy to identify our family, especially in the book. They used our actual names of the kids, Danny, Chris, and my sister.
Right.
And so, yeah, there was no getting around people knowing about it.
Was that a problem for you? I mean, 8 or 9 years old, you're a kid. You're not done being a kid yet. I mean, did that make childhood difficult for you?
Well, at first it was kind of like, wow, everybody's paying attention to me. That's kind of cool, a chance to make friends, and everybody wanted to, come meet me. But it wasn't shortly after that there was allegations of a hoax, and that became even more the thinking of the public in general, with the some of the things that were being said on That's Incredible. Well, there was things that came out in the movie, like that front window just absolutely shattering. Now that was my bedroom, right there on your screen,
Right.
where you've got the upstairs 2 windows.
Yep.
Okay, those 2 windows are 1 bedroom, and that used to be Ronald DeFeo's bedroom. And when we moved in the house, my brother and I shared that room. So that. Anyway, I got off on that just to mention that I kind of lost my train.
No,
of
that's
thought.
okay. No, we were talking. No problem. No, we were just talking about how you're a kid and people are paying attention. But at what point is it frustrating when people say it's a hoax? You're lying. You guys made all that up, and they weren't even there.
Oh, so this is where I'm going back to on that window. That window opened many times. Okay?
Yep.
But rather than display it like it happened, they show that window absolutely shattering. And then when they have that program with the Cromarties, who were the family that moved in after us, they're doing That's Incredible, revealing this big hoax, and they're trying to show that, look, the window pane is the original glass. Well, yeah, it's the original glass. It didn't shatter the glass. The window opened.
Right.
The thing swung open. So, things like that where details get convoluted to appear as one thing and they're not, and then you try to disprove the thing that's been, glamorized.
Right.
Well, are you really proving anything at that point?
So they're debunking the movie, not reality.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah.
Right, and there was things that were written in that book that were the same situation. So, yeah, everybody's going around calling this thing a big hoax, but what was even worse was I didn't know anything about it. I'm just a little kid in a public school out in California, far removed from, all the details of what the media is talking about. And so when it starts coming out on the news and TV and all this, that the whole thing's a hoax, well, now I got to deal with all these kids, and you think that adults are mean?
Sure. Yeah, kids are way worse. No question.
Dealing with these kids were, that was the only thing that they had to talk about. We got somebody famous in the class, and we'll call them a hoax, and now I'm duking it out. So that's the way it went.
Did you see the first movie when you were a child?
Our parents didn't want us seeing the movies, seeing the books, or reading the books, or seeing the articles, or even their interviews that we went on. They had gone around the world on a world tour, dropped us off at later on I found out it was a boarding school, but I thought it was an orphanage. That's what the other kids told me, and I remember crying my eyes out while they were gone for 2 months.
Oh,
but, that was part of my growing up, so, yeah.
And so, I mean, we know the movie starts with, did it say a true story or based on a true story? The first movie.
The front cover of the book. I have one.
We have it right here. We can bring it up. Here's the front cover of the book. It's it'll come up in a second. But yeah, Jay Anson's book, of course, says Amityville Horror. That's the movie. Just the book coming right up. There it is. Oh, A True Story by Jay Anson. Yeah. Okay. So there it is. I mean, Jay Anson's calling it a true story.
Right. So you're calling it a true story, and then they put my name in there, and then so the kids knew who I was, and even later when they changed the names in the movie, it still stems back to the first book.
Right.
And so based upon the book, the Amityville Horror, so the kids get a hold of the book, and there's your name, and hey, what they're telling me is, they're asking me what happened, and I'm trying to recall what I could recall, and I'd tell them, and telling me I'm a liar because that's not what was in the movie. So, it just got ridiculous.
I can imagine how frustrating that would be. Before the movie comes out, did this event bring your family closer together in any way? I mean, going through some ordeal like this before all the publicity?
As a little kid, me and my brother, my sister, we were all really tight. We were all we had each other had. I know that there was a lot of alienation that had taken place. I saw my mom bonding to a man that I wasn't familiar with. My brother and I were now having learned some martial arts. We're fighting it out at a more skilled level than ever before. So, you know, personally, I kind of became reclusive. Yeah, everybody was there, but everybody was like a little bit off kilter now, and it just didn't seem like it wasn't the same kind of a loving family situation that had been prior.
And so now, once the movie and all the publicity and all the touring and stuff, does it become something that drives your family apart? I mean, now there's money, there's lawsuits over who can say what. I mean, that's got to be tough for a family to go through.
That was you know, that went on for so long that it continually over the years, there was so much to it. You know, there was a lawsuit that went on for better than 13 years. George didn't work a regular job. You know, I remember while being in school, and it was a major issue in school about who my family was, and the whole way that this became public, and then it became, you know, regarded as a hoax, and I was getting in trouble fighting. And then I'd get home and I'd get in trouble for fighting at school, and then what's it about? And, you know, it was even worse that I was talking about it at school, but I didn't really have a choice. So I didn't feel like I could tell my parents that what was going on at school, because that's not supposed to be happening. You're not supposed to be talking about it. So I'd get in trouble if I talked about it. If I didn't talk about it, well, there was no getting around talking about it, because that's all the other kids wanted to do. And so it was disruptive to my schooling. And every year I pretty much bounced from one school to the next, sometimes even more than one school in a year. It wasn't because we moved every year, it was because it was an issue.
Right. And so at some point you actually, you don't want to be a Lutz anymore. I mean, you don't go by the name Lutz. When does that happen?
That was while I was in the military.
Okay.
I was in the Army, signed up, went through basic training with all these buddies of mine, combat buddies. It was a hardcore unit. It was 10th Mountain Division, light infantry, special forces. We trained hard. We all knew each other, and we would fight and kill for anybody, any place around the world. That was our job, and I enjoyed being able to do that well. You know, and so the movie would air every year at Halloween, and you know, if we were in the barracks, we'd you know, everybody wanted to go down to the day room and hang out and watch the movie, and they'd try to get me in there. And you know, there wasn't a part of that movie that was like accurate in my mind of what really took place. So it just became a disgusting thing to me to have to deal with this. And then one day a sergeant got in my face and started telling me about how I was a big hoax and my mom was a liar, and so was my father. And you know, look, I don't take that very well, and I just was ready to do what I usually had done all my life about it, and realizing that if I did this to the sergeant, I'd be, you know, sent to a brig. And so that was the last time I was going to let that happen on account of my name being associated to this thing. So I went through the process of changing my name, and knowing that once I had left the military, wherever I went from then on, people wouldn't know me as part of that family just based upon my name.
Right.
And so, you know, unless you were a close enough friend, I didn't bring it up.
Fair enough. And so time goes by. The public's fascination with Amityville obviously doesn't wane, because in 2005, another movie comes out, this one starring Ryan Reynolds, of all people, kind of weird in a horror movie. And this one, even if you just compare the first movie to this one, it's just even a grosser exaggeration of the first one. And what did you think when you saw that one?
Well, I'll tell you what the first thing I thought was. The first movie trailer, well, I'll put it this way. The first time that well, of course, the news release came out, and I was aware of it at the time. Now, there had already been a documentary that had been done that I was invited to be a part of. That didn't come together too well, because that's when I first read the book. My stepdad George was working with a gentleman named Daniel Ferns and another guy named Rick Osuna. They didn't let me know that. Well, I was led to believe that they worked for the History Channel, and they were inviting me to come and give an interview. They wanted asking me to come in and talk about it. I really don't want to talk about it. We don't have a lot of time to get into all the details on that.
No, that's fine.
But here's what had happened. There was they had intended to make another movie and another documentary, and I was led to believe that they were part of the History Channel, and they weren't. And so these guys wanted me to come in for $200, tell them what happened, and they were going to write another movie and another book. It turned out that the movie that they were trying to make was getting ready to get done when MGM found out about that and decided to beat them to the punch with their movie. And so when that movie got announced, I was really ticked off. At that time, my mom had just passed away. In fact, my mom passed away I believe they say it was the first day of their production. I just recently saw Melissa George on Celebrity Ghost Stories, saying that something choked her on the set, and as far as she's concerned, and from everything I gathered from the way that was presented, it would have either been my mom or it would have been one of those DeFeo children that had done it. Now, either way, that's a disgusting way to honor the dead.
Sure.
Lady, you're just an actor. Shut your mouth. That's my mother.
Right, and I understand. When you're talking about haunted locations, the implication, of course, is who's haunting the place, the person who died there, or whatever. And in the DeFeo house, these are victims. These are innocent victims of a horrible crime, and
they're portraying them with the kid with a bullet hole in her head.
Right.
That's like taking Kaylee Anthony and doing the same thing so you can make $108 million. And now they want to make another movie? How are they going to treat her again?
Right.
That ain't right, man.
No, absolutely. So why do you think that the public is so fascinated with the Amityville story, with the DeFeo murders, with this house? And let me tell you this. Last summer, I was in Long Island, and I went by the house. They've renumbered the street, but it's easy enough to find. And this was in June, not October, not Halloween, broad daylight, middle of the afternoon. There were cars stopping every 10, 15 minutes to just get out and take a picture of this house. All these years later, people are still fascinated with it. Do you have any thoughts as to why we can't let this one go?
Well, here's one thought on it. There's a spirit attached to this story.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's not died. That's why it's not gone away. Take a look at the way that all these people that have been involved in this thing through all the years that it's been. It's been people stealing from one another, whether it be the title, whether it be the story, whether it be calling it a hoax to attach their name up to it so that they can make their fame upon it. It's about greed, lies, deceit, and a number of other spirits that get attached to those that get involved in it. And I think that the public is still so interested in it, and in that there's a spirit of fear also, and that does grip people, and it doesn't let them go, and it grabs onto your brain, and you know that there's something real about it, even through all the
Right.
Sorry.
We'll bleep it later. No, it's fine. No, I understand. So is this still affecting you? Do you feel like there's still something around you that can go all the way back to 1975?
I'm sorry, you asked me to turn down my volume so you didn't get echo, but I can't hear you on that one.
The question was, do you believe there's still something around you that can go all the way back to 1975? Do you think that bad entity is still haunting you?
Well, there's still stuff going on in my life today, but I'm not going to get into that today. It seems like there's a pattern where it repeats. There are things that I'm discovering from when I was in the cradle, and then again at 7. And if I look back at more multiples of 7, especially now, just recently at 42, I'm 43 now, I've gone through pretty serious stuff that one day I'll disclose it. It won't be today. We'll stick to the topic at hand.
No, understood. And I appreciate you reliving. I know this can't be easy because we're pretty much drudging up something that's been a tough part of your life. And I appreciate you sharing it because though, Amityville's got to be one of the most famous haunted house in America when you're dealing with a family, there's other people that go through this, and some of them go public, and there's a cost to that. And I appreciate you sharing what that cost can be, how it affects a child even all these years later. It's not free. It's not free just to share your story and get your 15 minutes. Sometimes it doesn't end in a big way. So what are your plans now? Why are you coming out now? What's the plan?
Well, here recently, it was brought to my attention through a Google News alert. Anytime Amityville Horror pops up in the news, there's alerts that go on to my email. And I popped open my email, and there was an announcement that a movie company was getting ready to make another sequel to the movie. That was going to be by Hannibal Films, and they were going to do a film called Amityville Legacy in 3D. Great, another movie in 3D that is based on Amityville. How original. I was pretty tweaked about that, and I was sort of kind of, this thing never goes away, but, let's not take it any further. And 1 week later, I get another email alert. This one is announcing that Bob Weinstein of the Weinstein Brothers is at Cannes Film Festival getting up and announcing his deal between Miramax and Dimension, having hired Jason Blum, who was the producer of Paranormal Activity, to develop the next Amityville Horror movie called the Amityville Horror, the Lost Tapes. Now that's 2 brand new movies that are coming to the big screen. And just this past week, there's another movie that's been announced, Amityville Haunting. And they're going to take a real-life murder from another house in a whole other part of the country and have them moving into the Amityville house after we moved out and display their guts just like everybody else's. And, when is it going to end? Where is it going to ever get back to here's what really happened? It's not, unless I put my foot down. And so here's what I did. I called a contest. I says to Hollywood, I shook my fingers in their face, saying, listen, at what you do, you are good. But when it comes to the Amityville Horror and what happened after, I can tell a creepier story than you. And I'm calling a contest.
Right. And that's coming up soon, and we are going to have links to that from our website to yours. If you go to 30oddminutes.com, we'll have links all the way over to Christopher's website, and you can learn more about that challenge. You can check out what he's going to be doing later this fall, and keep in touch with it. Christopher, I appreciate you coming forward. You know from your family history what happens when you come forward. People call you all kinds of names, even though they weren't there, and I really appreciate you going through this with us again tonight. We are pretty much right up against the end of the half hour, but seriously, thank you for what you've shared and what you're going to continue to share in the coming months, and we'll definitely keep in touch with you and definitely want to check back in if you'll
Listen,
come
Jeff,
back.
I know you've been in this for a long time, but when it comes to horror, I'll let you know right now, you don't know horror until you've heard it from me.
And with that, folks, you will be hearing it from Christopher Quaratino again not too long from now. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you for a very serious 30-odd minutes tonight. Till next time, we will stay odd. Thank you. All right. Thanks.